Okay, so I'm Grasswalker. Hello and welcome to the Character Archive, which is a new series where I'm going to hopefully inspire you guys to make really interesting characters, or at least just show off how I make characters. And they're all going to have certain themes, or certain ideas, or certain builds that I'm trying to work towards. And it's up to you how far you follow them, if you follow them at all, or if you just take and steal parts of how I build characters. It's up to you. So this week's inspiration and building block is the Punisher, also known as Frank Castle, also known as Francis Castiglione or something. Now if you haven't seen Daredevil or the Punisher on Netflix yet, I'd recommend watching them. This is going to contain some spoilers, but not many, nothing super specific, I hope not, but if you watch it and I spoil something in the end, don't be mad at me. It's like, turn it off, watch the things, then come back to this. So Frank Castle was a little shit as a kid. His parents were too old, so they couldn't control him, so he decided he'd just hurt a load of people, and then eventually after years of just being a little cunt, he ended up joining the military. Frank feels like he cost his friend his leg because he was instructed to shoot anyone who dared approach a certain location, and a pregnant woman started approaching that location. Obviously his instructions were to immediately kill her, but he couldn't because it reminded them of his family. She ended up being a suicide bomber, and this ended up costing Curtis Hoyle his leg. So from this you can pick up character traits and flaws. So one of your traits will be, I'll never let my friends down again, which is a fantastic trait to have in a cooperative party-based role-playing game. Frank Castle is a man haunted by the massacre of his family. The day after he came back from deployment, he took his family to the park, and they all ended up dying in a three-way gang shootout. In addition to this, Frank was actually heavily wounded at the scene after being shot in the head, and he was taken to hospital where he flatlined, he died, and a person named George actually saw him both die and then his heart started back up, it just jumped back to life. So back to the character build, this links absolutely perfectly with the Revenant Unearthed Arcana in Gothic Heroes, which reads, having met a cruel and undeserved fate, you've returned to life, which he actually did. As a Revenant you thirst for revenge against those who wronged you, or to seek an unfinished task completed, which Frank had both. He wanted revenge against the three gangs that killed him, and the unfinished task is he wanted to kill every fucking criminal in the world. The mechanical benefits of a Revenant are that you gain 1 Constitution, which means you're tanky, you can take more punishment, quite fitting for a Revenant, quite fitting for a Punisher, and you also gain Relentless Nature, which means if you're below half health at the start of your turn, including if you're unconscious, you've regained 1 health point. So if you start your turn having been put down, you get back up, and that's fucking amazing inside of a game. It is so scary for the opposing monsters to put you down and you just get up, and they put you down and you just get up, and even if they do kill you, if you die, you return to life within 24 hours after death. You don't gain your equipment, like your body just comes back up. If someone kills you, loots you, dumps your shit in the fucking bin, you just come back to life in that bin. If your body is completely destroyed, if it's dissolved in acid, if it's burnt down, your body reforms within a mile of where you died. Again, without your equipment, you just come back as your naked body. As well as this, you always know the distance and direction between you and creatures involved in your goal. Now it comes to the DM as to what that actually means, if it just means your final goal or each individual person. So if your goal is to rid the world of crime, do you know the distance and location of every criminal that's ever committed a crime or not? We'll get onto this later, where you can actually have some criminal hunting stuff from your background features. And finally, when your goal is complete, you finally rest, which is in the Punisher, and I'm not going to spoil it, but at the end he quote-unquote finishes his goal, and he has a choice as to whether or not he rests or if he comes back and keeps going with a new goal or a slightly adjusted goal. Rules as written, you can only take races with Revenant that either have a sub-race or are specifically mentioned in the article that you're allowed. So this limits you to Aasimars, Dwarves, Elves, Ganassis, Gnomes, Halflings, Dragonborns, Humans and Tieflings. And out of all these, it's up to you which one you choose your Punisher/Revenant to be, but personally I really like the touch of Elf. So the reason I like Elf so much is you get Dexterity, which translates to the knives and guns the Punisher's so well known for, which are end up being daggers and crossbows. No matter what you're firing as a ranged weapon, it's gonna have to be using a dex roll. You also get dark vision, which means you can hunt during the night, you're not just completely paralysed by the fact it's a dark corridor. You gain the benefits of Fey ancestry, and the Punisher's exceptionally known for resisting psychic and telepathic effects. He's in full mental faculties of his own mind. In addition to this, you get the trance, which means you don't need to sleep, and that's so metal, to not sleep and just spend your entire waking life killing people. And on top of that, you get thrown in a perception proficiency, which is literally never bad. There is no campaign where you're not going to be looking around. So there's a variety of backgrounds you can pick. The most obvious one is Soldier, but I actually think that's one of the worst you can pick, because the benefits a Soldier gives you is a rank you can use to pull rank on other soldiers, and at no point do I think Castle ever does that during the entire series. Some better alternatives is actually the variant Sailor Pirate, which means you can get away with minor criminal offences. So if you break down the shop doors, kill a criminal and leave, people might not actually report you to the authorities, which is kind of symbolic of the entire series where people are kind of on his side. He has this bad reputation that he goes around killing people, but people still don't report him to the police because they sort of understand. Another good one is City Watch, where you can easily pick out the dens of criminal activity in a community, but this has the potential to be absolutely useless depending on how generous your DM is with the Revenant trait that you know the distance and direction of anyone to do with your goal. And another great one is Haunted One, because people can see that you face unimaginable horror, people are very courteous, people are happy to help you, and if you're up against something completely alone and you've had a good impression on the community, people might take up arms and fight with you. But at the end of the day, it's up to you what you feel like your individual Punisher character is going to have as their background. You could go for something completely out there and go for like the Inheritor background and have an item that speaks to you and tells you what kind of people you need to kill next. Whatever you choose is up to you, it's just a background, they're all like 2 skills and 2 other things, it's not going to be the end of the world what you pick. So Frank sees the world pretty much in black and white. He sees the people that deserve to live, and then he sees the scum that needs to be purged. And the scum that needs to be purged are criminals, people that have done bad things, people that have twisted the rules and generally hurt other people for their own benefit, that kind of stuff. He has this own internal code of conduct, which means the character you're going to be playing is probably lawful, depending on what sort of Revenant you want to do and how far you want to imitate Frank. If you want your own internal conduct to be I will kill criminals no matter how small the crime, no matter what it costs, even if I have to kill innocents to kill the evil people, it's worth the pain. If that's your opinion, then you're probably laying more on the chaotic spectrum, but you've still got this internal law, so it's hard to say exactly. Alignment's kind of a mess, I wouldn't recommend worrying about it too much. So from these quotes from Frank Castle, you can kind of get a sense of what kind of personality traits you're going to add to your character. So one of your ideals might be criminals must die no matter how much they pretend they can repent. One of your flaws might be I don't think people can change. Stuff like that. You can make a Revenant with any class you choose, but I think one really stands out to me, and I've played it before and I actually really enjoyed playing it. It's Barbarian with the subclass of Zealot. So in the early levels, the first tier of play, levels 1 to 6, this is where you'll spend a majority of your time actually playing games, because most campaigns don't survive beyond that. Very, very few campaigns will even get past level 11. So for these early levels, this is the majority of what you're looking at. You have a humongous hit die, you have lots of health, and on a short rest you can heal a lot. You have Rage, which means you deal more damage with strength weapons, you take less damage, you become stronger, very fitting for a Revenant, throwing stuff out of his way whilst in this rage. You can Reckless attack basically on every attack, because it doesn't matter if you take damage, you have so much health, you take so little damage, and the Revenant sub-race brings you back up even if you do go down. You have Danger Sense, because Castle has this amazing ability to sort of get a sense of when he's about to be ambushed or surprised. He always seems to get a feel for this kind of thing. He called out Agent Orange's terrible plan. He knows what's going on, and again, it quite fits. Extra attack is never bad. Fast movement speed means that nothing gets away. Something can't just decide, oh, I'm just going to double dash and I happen to be a wood elf, therefore you will never catch me. With this extra movement, stuff's not getting away from you unless it's really fast. And then the benefits from the subclass of Zealot don't come until later, but early on it's not bad. You get this large amount of Divine Fury extra damage that scales with Barbarian level. You have a soul that's marked for Endless Battle, which means anything that would bring you back doesn't cost any gold, which means if your party decides to bring you back, they can. If they don't, you come back on your own, it doesn't matter. And you can actually refuse to fail saving throws once per rage, which is, again, really strong for just shrugging off this one effect that's going to stop you from killing this guy that you need to, that you believe you have to. So depending on your campaign, you probably will get past level 6, so I'm going to talk about the stuff you gain from level 7 to 15. I'm not going to go further than that because I've never heard of a single campaign beyond Critical Role that actually lasted beyond level 15. So as you go deeper into the class, you get more stuff. You get Rage damage increase, so on every single hit you get 1 more damage, which means as you're attacking twice you get even more damage. You get Brutal Criticals, which again just translates into more damage if you do get that nat 20. Then you get advantage on initiative, and you get to act in surprise, which again links back to Frank Castle always sees the ambushes coming, especially when he puts himself in that situation, where he throws himself into this awful situation to be tortured. He knows he's going to get ambushed, so he's not surprised by it whatsoever. Then you get the Relentless Rage, which means you can make a DC 10 plus 5 for each time you've also made that save recently. Constitution saving throw against going unconscious. So if someone goes to knock you unconscious and you roll a 7 plus 5, you've got 12. That means you actually don't go unconscious, you just go to 1 hit point like the orcs do, and then the save gets harder in future. And at level 15, your rage ends only if you fall unconscious, which is very important when it links to something the Zealot gets. So as you go deeper into Zealot, you get Divine Fury scaling, so obviously it's half of your Barbarian level, so you get 1 every 2 levels in damage. You also get Zealous Presence, which is basically giving advantage to everyone on everything in combat. So once per long rest, you can scream, and up to 10 people of your choice get advantage on all attack rolls and saves until your next turn. So either in the first round of combat or near the end when the guy's going to throw his final hurrah, you can just make everybody really, really, really good in that next round. And at level 14 you get Rage Beyond Death, which means you don't go unconscious as long as you're raging. You continue to roll death saves and you might die at the end of combat, but given that you are a Revenant, you're not going to die at the end of combat because you heal at the start of your round, which wipes all your death saves. So by the time combat ends, you are guaranteed to be the last man standing, even if everyone else has died, even if you've taken 500 damage and it happens to not be double of your hit point total and instantly kill you. You are just not going to die at any point. At level 15, Rage ends only if you fall unconscious, and at 14, you don't go unconscious when you're raging. You are always up. You press that rage button and you cannot go down for the next minute. 10 rounds of combat, it's not going to last that long, and even if it does, you've got more rage buttons to click. So when it comes to determining your stats, you're going to have to choose if you're going full strength and use like a great sword or something, where your only ranged attacks are throwing javelins, or if you go full dexterity where you can use any ranged weapon you choose, but your melee's a bit weird because you might have to go rapier and shield or 2 short swords, or you could go for a mix where you're not really great at either, but you can do both. Whatever you choose, you're probably going to want to max your main stat, so if you pick strength, you're going to want to go full strength. If you're going dex, you have to go full dex. You're probably going to want at least 14 dexterity so you can use medium armor, but it depends how much you value con. Because the thing about having so many survivability effects is you can dump con. Like, you would be fine with 2 con, because your hit dice is so humongous as a Barbarian, and you have all these effects where you, if you go unconscious, you come back up. So having a large maximum health doesn't matter, because getting low health is fine because you never actually die. It's the sort of a problem with 5e as a whole. If you go low health, it doesn't matter, because as soon as you go unconscious, that's what matters. Conscious versus unconscious matters. Full health, half health doesn't matter. I've put up some examples of a standard array and a 27 point buy. I'm not sure, because I think point buy is limited to 15, but that's a rule that I've never seen enforced. If you want to spend the points to go up to 16, go for it as far as I'm concerned. I like the point buy a lot more. You get this high strength, so you can battle in melee, you have a good dex, you can use crossbows, you have an average con because you've sort of dumped it, and then you've got good other stats, you've got good mental stats, which means you're not this stereotypical barbarian trope of, oh, I've dumped int, I have no idea what's going on. So that's pretty much the skeleton of a Punisher-inspired Revenant build, and obviously you have to flesh everything out. You still need a backstory, you still need to finish out your ideals, all this good stuff. You've got to figure out what your hair colour is going to be, what artwork you can use. But that's pretty much all I can make a video on. Like, if I'm talking about the advantages of having green hair versus blue hair, it's going to be 40 minutes long and it's going to be stupid. But thank you guys for joining me. I hope that I inspired something in you guys to play something similar to this. You can make a really, really cool character with this, and you can really break the tribal woodland barbarian trope that always seems to crop up everywhere. And yeah, thank you guys for watching.